Good evening, everyone. My name is Sergio Cantillo. I'm from Costa Rica, and my presentation is titled Tico's Adventure in Gwangju, South Korea. Can we please go to the next slide? Well, my name is Sergio. I am a student at Chonnam National University. My major was Global MBA. I will graduate very soon, and I was born in San Jose, Costa Rica. Please, the next slide. Thank you. So the title of my presentation was A Tico's Adventure in Gwangju. But what's a Tico or a Tica? So the term Ticos is a collective term Costa Ricans we gave ourselves. It's Tico is used for men and Tica is used for women. And the phrase comes from the common habit of Costa Ricans adding the word Tico or Tica to the end of words, and this is to show affection when we speak. Next slide, please. Thank you. I have some questions for you, so feel free to answer some true or false. So the first one is Costa Rica in Africa? Anyone has an answer for that? So Costa Rica is in Central America, not really in Africa, not really in Europe. We're in Central America. The next question is, does Costa Rica has an army? Well, the answer is no. We don't have any armed forces. We have no military personnel in our country. The next question is, does Costa Rica has any European-style buildings in the capital? Well, we do. We do have quite a few older style buildings that have a lot of European influence. The next question is, was Costa Rica a colony? Well, yeah, we were a Spanish colony for a long, long time. And the last question is, has been Costa Rica independent for more than 200 years? And the answer is yes. We've been independent since the 19th century, so more than 200 years. Next slide, please. So a little about myself. My motto is Sic Parvis Magna. In Latin, for greatness starts from small beginnings. I truly believe that even small efforts make up to great results. So we should even try. We should try even small things to achieve bigger objectives, I think. So next slide, please. About my family, well, my family has 4 members: my parents, my younger sister, and me. So it's like a normal, regular, small family for the Costa Rican standards. So the next slide, please. Oh, so here is where is Costa Rica. You can see 2 maps here. So the map on the left-hand side is a map of Central America, I would say. So you have, well, the United States up north and Mexico. Then you have Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua. Costa Rica is that little small country there. And then there is Panama at the south. We also have neighbors in the Caribbean Sea, like Cuba and Jamaica, right, and Dominican Republic. As you can see in this green map, Costa Rica is a really small country. We are half of the size of Korea, so we're a tiny country. And here on the right-hand side, you can see the main cities of our country, if you will, and San Jose being the capital in the center, and some other cities, for example, Puerto Limon, which is very important port for the access to the Caribbean Sea, and also Puerto Quepos on Punta Arenas, Caldera, which are important ports to access the Pacific Ocean. Next slide, please. Thank you. The next one is about our flag. So you can see our flag has 3 colors, which is on top and bottom, blue. The meaning is the sky and also the human ideals. We also have 2 white stripes that stand for the national peace. And we have a bigger stripe color red. Here it's to remember the blood spilled by your ancestors in order to, have the country we have nowadays. And the flag also has a small coat of arms there with, it's a little small maybe in the picture, but there's 7 stars, and each star there it represents one of the 7 provinces of the country. Next slide, please. Oh, about my hometown. My hometown's name is Nicoya. Is a big town or a small city, depending on how you look at it. It's popularly known as the colonial city because it has a lot of Spanish influence, especially in the older buildings, like the church we have on the top left-hand side. And also in my town, we use a lot of the traditional clothes or national clothes, which is called the traje típico. And we can see the ladies in the bottom left-hand side wearing this kind of clothes. Also, in my hometown, it is common to find people aged more than 100 years old. So people have long lives in my town. And our main celebration is on July the 25th, which is called La Anexión. Next slide, please. Thank you. So a little about my interests. Well, I am interested in cars, traveling, and music. Living in Asia has been a really interesting experience to me. Not only living here in Korea, but also visiting countries like Japan and Vietnam has been quite a nice adventure. I think it's been a really important part of the adventure here. Next slide, please. So something about previous jobs and volunteering. So I used to work in my parents' business back in Costa Rica. I have been volunteering for KONA during my stay here in Gwangju, and it's been a wonderful opportunity. I've met a lot of great people, and I've made tons of lovely, lovely memories. And I have also volunteered for Barraunda National Park in Costa Rica. Next slide, please. About volunteering at KONA. Well, as you can see in the picture here, volunteering at KONA allowed me to meet great people from all over the world, from different backgrounds, different ages, and they've all been like teachers to me. So I'm very grateful for that. Can I go to the next slide, please? I really enjoyed reading short stories with kids and other volunteers. I think it's been a really fun activity to do. I really enjoy reading with children, especially because they learn so fast, and it's a very refreshing activity to do. Next slide, please. Yeah. So, well, as I mentioned before, volunteering at KONA has been a wonderful, lovely opportunity. I've really learned a lot from all the people I've met along the way. I can only be thankful for that, and I also cherish the memories we shared together. Next slide, please. Well, something about education and languages. Well, before going to the university, I graduated as an automotive technician. Then I did a bachelor in business administration at Costa Rica's National University. Then my MBA here at Chonnam National University, which has been a great adventure. And my main language is Spanish. My second language is English, and I've studied some Italian and some Korean, but I'm not as good as I would like to be. Next slide. About our currency, the Costa Rican currency, it's called colon. As you can see in the picture here, money is very colorful in my country. So pretty much all of the bills have a different kind of animal. So in the bill of 1,000 colones, we have a deer. In the one of for 2,000 colones, we have a shark. For the one of 5,000 colones, we have a monkey. For the one with 10,000 colones, we have one with a sloth, which is a really slow animal, but it's one of our national animals. And for the bill of 20,000 colones, we have a hummingbird. So, thank you. Oh, some quick facts and figures about our country. So we are located in Central America. We have borders with Panama and Nicaragua. The size of our country is roughly 51,100 square kilometers, so not a big country. We are 5.2 million people, so population is very small, I think. Our language is Spanish, and the country is famous for democracy and having no army since 1949. Biodiversity, which we have around 5 or 6% of all biodiversity in the world. Ecotourism, which is also very popular. Adventure activities related to ecotourism. And there's a very strong commitment to sustainability. Next slide, please. Some of the older buildings in San Jose, some of the European influenced buildings in San Jose. So on the left-hand side, we have the National Theater. And on the right-hand side, we have the Buenaventura Corrales School. This school in particular is it's a public school, and it was designed by Gustave Eiffel, the same person who designed the Eiffel Tower of France. So it's an older building, but it's still very well kept. And I think people in San Jose is very proud of it. Next slide, please. Thank you. So some important people in my country. So we can start with Claudia Paul, which was an Olympic swimmer. She got a gold medal in 1996. We also have Laura Chinchilla, which was the first female president of Costa Rica from 2010 until 2024. Also, Brisa Hennessy, which is an Olympic surfer. People in my country really like surf. And we also have Sandra Kaufman, which is the astrophysics division director at NASA. Next slide, please. Thank you. Some other important people. We have Dr. Oscar Arias, which was 1987 Nobel Peace Prize winner. During that time, late 70s, early to mid 80s in Central America, there was a huge war, but Costa Rica has been neutral since 1949 when we abolished the military. So President Arias at the time helped make a peace deal in the region, so that's why he got the Nobel Peace Prize. Then we have Dr. Franklin Chang Diaz, which is an astronaut and a scientist. He's a retired astronaut now. We also have Clodomiro Picado Twite, which was also a very famous scientist. He used to work at the Pasteur Institute, and he was related to some research related penicillin and some other medicines for the snake bites and so on. So in the long time ago, so he's a famous scientist in my country. And we also have Jorge Jimenez de Heredia, which is a famous sculptor currently. Next slide, please. Oh, okay. So Costa Rica is a green country. Costa Rica has around 5% of world's biodiversity, meaning that we have roughly 5% of all living creatures, kinds of plants and animals living in our country, even though we are a small landmass. Also, more than 30% of the land is under environmental protection. So this kind of protection is either national parks or biological reserves or some other special program. So even though we're a small country, there's a lot of conservation and protection for the nature. And also, Costa Rica has roughly 99% of the country's electricity generated from renewable resources like windmills or hydroelectric dams and solar energy as well. So we try not to use a lot of fossil fuels to make electricity. We use most of the fossil fuels fuel cars, yes. So about food, well, we have a lot of different kind of tropical fruits and vegetables. And I think food in my country is very colorful, as you can see in the pictures here. Coffee is a very important part of our diet. We love coffee and have great coffee and coffee every morning and every afternoon. So people usually have more than 2 cups a day. If we go to the next slide, we can see our fruits. So Costa Rica, being a tropical country, has many fruits like bananas and mangoes and papayas, watermelons, pineapples, coconuts, you name it. We have a lot of it, and it's very cheap usually. But our very national or special fruit is called cas, which is this little green fruit on the top left-hand side. It is similar to a guava, and people usually use it to make cold smoothies for during the hot weather season. So I really miss some good smoothie, cas smoothie. They're very good. If you ever have the time to visit Costa Rica, have some, please. It's very good. In the next slide, we have the vegetables. And well, we are a tropical country, so we have many kinds of vegetables. And the most representative grain or crop in my region is the corn. People use corn a lot to make tortillas and other similar dishes, maybe a little similar to the Mexican style food. Then if we go to the next slide, we can see here the home lifestyle. In Costa Rica, people live in separate, like individual houses. We don't really live in apartments as here in Korea. So even though there are apartments, they're not very popular. People prefer to have like a garden and a little more room. So having this extra room allows people to enjoy activities like gardening, usually, and home party barbecues. People usually have like a barbecue or a grill style thing in their backyards, and we usually go and make home parties very frequently. And the home party is usually held at the house of maybe a family member, usually grandparents or uncles or whatever, but it's usually the one with the biggest house is the host of the parties. If we go to the next slide, we can see our national holidays. So for the January 1st is New Year. April 11th is Juan Santa Maria Day, which is one of our national heroes. On May 1st is Labor Day. July the 25th is Guanacaste Day. It's a very important day in my town. On August the 15th, we have Mother's Day. And on September the 15th, we have Independence Day. Also, December the 1st is a very important day for us, which is Army Abolition Day. And then we have Christmas. That's the last holiday of the year. Here in this slide, we can see our national clothes, like traditional style clothes. It's called traje típico. And this kind of clothes is very elaborated, especially for women. It includes a really big skirt, as you can see here in the left, the bottom left picture. And for the male clothes, it's not so impressive. I would say it's just like a regular pants and a shirt, sometimes a hat. But this kind of clothes is more elaborated, or it's more interesting to see for the female clothes, I think. It's especially people usually wear this kind of clothes during the Guanacaste Day. Not only in my town, but all over the country. That's kind of a tradition, I think, for that specific day. If we go to the next slide, we can see Costa Rica's sports. So in my country, the main or the most popular sports are football or soccer, also cycling and surfing, because we have a lot of coastline. So there's a lot of interesting beaches to go and surf. So people enjoy surfing from the water sports. Like the most popular is surfing. If we go to the next slide, we can see some of the traditional games. They are, or they're popular, especially during the holiday season when families gather, and they usually play with hide and seek. It's a classic. Also playing marbles, as we can see here on the right top right picture. Also trompo, which is the bottom left picture. It's a wooden kind of cylinder. And then balero, which is the one next to the trompo, which is like a wooden stick and a kind of a hat kind of thing. And also sack races are also very popular among children. Like especially grandchildren and cousins tend to race each other during Christmas and some other holidays in the sack races. So if we, okay, in this slide about the music, Costa Rica has many kinds of traditional music depending on the region. It has either Spanish or Jamaican influence. So on the Caribbean side, we are very close to Jamaica. So people even speak some sort of Creole English, and the music is very similar to the Jamaican music. And on either the central part or the Pacific side, it has more of a Spanish kind of influence. So the music has more guitars and it's in Spanish. On the next slide, I think we have the instruments. Yes, we have the musical instruments here. So depending on the region, we have either the marimba and the quijongos, which have some sort of African influence. And we also have the guitar, the bajo de cajon, which is some sort of bass, bass, and also bongos are very popular for the traditional music. So depending on where you go, music is a little different. For the next slide, we have tourist attractions. So Costa Rica is a tourist magnet, I think. There's a lot of things, interesting things to see if you like nature. So we have a lot of rainforest and dry forest. We have tropical beaches. We have volcanoes. We have national parks. So there's a little for everyone, right? If you like nature, it's a very interesting place to go if you really enjoy the outdoors. For the next slide, I think we have transportation. So transportation in Costa Rica is very different from the transportation here in Korea. Most of the people have their own car and we usually drive everywhere because our public transport is not that good. We don't have like a subway system. We have this train that we see here in the top left picture, which is like intercity train. It's not high speed or anything. It's convenient, but it's not very efficient, I would say. And there's also buses that are everywhere in the city. And but it tends to be a little slow if you go by bus. And also motorcycles are popular, but not as popular as, let's say, in Vietnam. And for the next slide, we have relationships with Korea, diplomatic relationships. So Costa Rica and Korea have a really strong diplomatic relationship since 1962. There is also a free trade agreement between our countries, and there's a really close and friendly diplomatic relationship between our countries. This logo here is a joint logo that was made from Costa Rica and Korea to celebrate the, I think it was 50th anniversary or 60th anniversary of the diplomatic relationships. So that just make a symbol of our friendship. And if we go to the next slide, it's more about my adventures here. So for the adventure of living and studying in Gwangju, as you have already guessed, living in Gwangju is very different from living in Costa Rica. Everything is different. The weather, the food, language, everything is completely different. Also, I am the only Costa Rican in Gwangju, actually, so there's no country mates I can, reach for help. And because I was studying an MBA, I spent most of my time, well, studying and preparing projects or reports for my school. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Yeah. So, well, the classes for the MBA program were usually at night or during the weekends because it's a professional school. So some of the people enrolled in the program are working full-time in companies, are not full-time students like me. So the program is kind of an executive program. So we had to adjust our schedule. And my classmates were mostly foreigners, but also some were Korean. And well, I usually took 4 or 5 classes each semester, which was like all the amount of credits I was supposed to take each semester. And for the next slide, please. Well, I lived here in Chonnam National University's dormitories. I had a Korean roommate, and I usually ate at the student cafeteria. So I tried some of the Korean food available to us here in the dorms. And if you go to the next slide, please. I think the best part of the adventure of here living and studying in Gwangju is that I've met a lot of great friends in this city. I really love Gwangju, and I really love the people I've met here. So I've met wonderful people volunteering for the KONA program, and I've met also great people from my school. As you can see in the pictures here, uh, we ate a lot and we traveled to a lot of different nice places. So I was lucky enough to make a lot of lovely, lovely memories. And I think for the next slide might be the last one. Yes, I think it's the last one. So I have some questions just to brief quiz. So it's Costa Rica and Latin America. Well, yeah, it's in Central America. Costa Rica has no army. Well, yeah, we have no army. And has Costa Rica Nobel Peace prize winners and astronauts and scientists? Well, we do. We actually do. Even though we're a small country, we actually do. So I think that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening to me tonight. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.